John Vassall's surname always suggested divided loyalties. A vassal is, or was, a feudal tenant in medieval Europe, a man who was obliged to fight for a king or landowner whenever they were needed, in exchange for land to live on. A vassal state is one under the control of a more powerful country to which it must give money or military support when ordered. But most of the vassals have been anything but underlings. Instead, many of them were colonial adventurers, statesmen, and senior military officers. Most English families remain in the same part of England for generations or even centuries on end. The vassal family is different. From the 16th century onwards, they were nomads who constantly moved between France, England, the American colonies, and the West Indies. Ultimately, the vassals are not English anyway. Their earliest certain ancestor, the first John Vassall, was a French Huguenot of the house of Du Vassal in the Périgord, present-day Dordogne, which could trace its roots back to the 11th century. This John Vassall arrived in England in the 1500s to escape dissensions then prevailing in Normandy. His son, another John, is said to have fitted out, at his own expense, 2 ships that he commanded in battle against the Spanish Armada in 1588. He was granted arms by Queen Elizabeth with the motto, "Often for the throne, always for the country," an ironic maxim for an ancestor of one of Britain's most notorious 20th century spies. John Vassall the spy was descended from William Vassall, the 5th child of John Vassall, the Armada hero. William was born in Stepney in 1592, but in 1635 he went to New England and later settled in Barbados, where he died in 1655. For several further generations, the Vassalls owned swathes of land in New England and sugar plantations in Jamaica, maintained by slave labour. Several Vassalls' wills bequeath negroes, cattle, utensils and stock to the next generation. But from the late 18th century onwards, most of John Vassall's ancestors lived and died in England. Back in their native land, the Vassall family remained nomads. Over the next 150 years, they constantly moved between Somerset, Gloucestershire, Leicestershire, Yorkshire, Devon and Bedfordshire, and one member of the family worked and died in France. One Vassall ancestor served as a staff surgeon in the Peninsular War, but John Vassall's paternal great-grandfather, grandfather and father were all Anglican churchmen, and all 3 of them were called William. The first William was born in Wigston, Leicestershire, in 1824 and studied at St John's College, Cambridge, before being ordained in 1851. He was rector of Hardington Mandeville, a small village in Somerset, where he died in 1883. This William had no fewer than 15 children by his wife Martha, née Skelton. Their eldest son, another William, was born in Yorkshire in 1858 and educated at Cheltenham College and a theological college in Gloucester, where, in 1884, he married Alice Maud Holland. After ordination, he became rector of Weir Gifford in Devon. But from 1891 onwards, he was a British chaplain at Saint-Séverin, a village just south of St Malo in Brittany, where he died in 1896, aged only 38. Despite his often tense relationship with his father, John Vassall was always keen to boast about his paternal side of his family. As a child, one of his proudest possessions was a 40-page book entitled John Vassall and His Descendants, after his 16th century ancestor and namesake, written in 1920 by Charles Maclear Calder, another Vassall descendant. Vassall's memoirs make much of the distant relatives who were members of Parliament and aldermen of the City of London. As an adult, he constantly talked about Elizabeth Vassall, one of George and England's most scandalous women.